Okay, so I think we're online right now. We are very excited today to be presenting with Sam Noble, as well with, we also have Ariane Donahue and Kirk Williams, and of course myself, Joel Bondarowski, for this very exciting webinar where we will be speaking about how to target users at different stages of the sales funnel. So for now, we're just going to be here, waiting for everyone to join. So before we begin, why don't we first, we'll save the real introduction for later once, more people get in. But for now, let's just start speaking about where we're all coming from. Me personally, I'm here in Tel Aviv, Israel. I'm originally from Orlando, Florida. And I believe Samantha is over in England. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct. Yeah, I'm right down the south coast of England near Portsmouth.
Portsmouth,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And I'm somewhere in the northern part of England, not quite as far north as Scotland, but getting up there in a city called Leeds, which no one's ever heard of who doesn't live in Britain.
Leeds?
Yeah.
I think that was in a TV. No, that wasn't where Ali G was from, was it?
No, wasn't that? Is that Staines?
That was Staines. That's right. I don't know why I keep thinking I was hearing Leeds. Yeah.
But we're not far from Manchester, which most people have heard of, so not too far from there.
Oh yes. Isn't there a Manchester United? I think that's.
And a Manchester City, and they are fierce rivals. You either bleed red or you bleed blue in Manchester, I believe.
Oh, so they're not united.
Red is United, and then blue is Manchester City, and it's like I don't know, what's an American analogy for two teams in the same city who hate each other?
Well, Manchester doesn't sound very united, now, does it?
Fair. That's fair.
That's okay, but that's where I know Manchester from primarily. Yes, I've been to the UK quite a bit. I've been to England. I've been to London. I was at Bread and SEO about a month ago. And I was also in Northern Ireland. I was up in Belfast before.
Lovely there.
That's okay. And of course, we have someone else joining us from London, Graham Flaherty.
I'm from the British city of Montana.
Okay.
That was a joke.
Yeah. Which is well. There are a lot of American cities that do have British names. I don't think Montana is one of them.
We named one of our daughters Bristol because we like that name so much.
Okay.
Luckily for you, Bristol in the UK is a very nice city, so you chose well.
Yeah.
If you called her Staines or Luton, that would have been not so good. So Bristol was a good choice.
That's good.
And I think it's named Montana because of all the lakes. That's that's Lake Tana.
Yeah, that's more Minnesota as the lakes.
No, I thought that is Minnesota. Okay. We have someone from Michigan as well. We have India, and of course someone from Brighton. I see a Brazilian. Oh, two Brazilians. No, that's one Brazilian. That's just someone moderating from Semrush writing Brazil. So, oi, tudo bem? Como vai? É prazer para ficar aqui com vocês. Just me and my rusty Portuguese.
Wow.
I'm impressed.
I impressed everybody except for those who understand.
What did you say, Joel? What did you order food or did you greet people?
I think I ordered a check. Okay. Wow. So people are from all over. Oh, we have Oregon. That's not far from Montana-ish. Okay, good. So it's wow, people are really joining. I'm very excited for this because I think we got a very good engagement in this webinar. We got a lot of signups. I think people are very excited to hear what Sam has to say.
No pressure.
I'm excited to hear what Sam has to say.
Oh yeah, and I'm excited to be hosting it. And I got a glimpse at the presentation earlier, and it really looks fantastic. Just by going through the slides, I found myself learning, some new things. I mean, I don't want to give any spoilers, but I think Sam will give us a preview of some new exciting things that's going on in the online marketing world that most people aren't knowing about. So that is something you definitely, if you're just now joining, definitely stick around, at least for that, because that'll make this webinar set itself apart from others altogether. So that is something I'm excited for. And also, of course, the strategies about how to use these things in order to reach people all across the sales funnel. Okay, so I think at this point, I'll do the formal introduction of everybody. It's already 5 minutes in. So I myself, Joel Bondarowski, I'll be hosting this webinar. It's the first on a series that I'm hosting of advanced online marketing, mostly PPC strategies. Today, our first presenter is Samantha Noble. Samantha has been working in digital marketing for over 12 years, specializing in paid media across both search and social. She has worked client side, agency side, and has recently set up a paid media consultancy and training business, which is called Biddable Moments. It's a really good name, actually, if you're doing PPC. It helps. No, it does. I mean, it's actually kind of, the name itself kind of fits in a bit with the topic here, because well, no, I mean, it fits in with your brand. I mean, you're talking about reaching people at different stages in the decision-making funnel. These are different moments that people are on in their lives, and each one deserves a different bid and even bidding strategy and campaign targeting, and as well as platform that you use to reach them. So Biddable Moments is, you live by it. It's not just a cool name, which is nice, because you're welcome. No, because I mean, a lot of people, they set up names and it's just like XYZ marketing, or that's great. It's very relevant. And so over at Biddable Moments, what Sam does is she helps agencies increase their revenue as well as brands through PPC, and also helps consult them with teams to run more efficient campaigns. And Sam is a regular speaker. You can see her at conferences all through the world. Also joining us is Ariane Donahue. She started off her digital career over a decade ago. She's worked both agencies and in-house brands, specializing in all things media. She's now back agency side, focusing on marketing strategy at Epiphany Search. She's a regular speaker and trainer on the conference scene, and is also an editor and contributor at State of Digital, a very proud and part of She Does Digital, which is a collective aiming to boost the number of women in digital careers.
Yeah.
So we're very happy to have Ariana with us. And Kirk Williams, I've done an episode before with him. He is owner of Zato, his paid search PPC micro agency of experts. He's been working in online marketing since 2009. He's actually been named one of the top 25 most influential PPCers in the world by PPC Hero for 3 years in a row. And he has written articles for many industry publications. He is one of the hosts of a weekly PPC chat on Twitter, as well as an avid conference speaker. He's traveled all over the US and the UK, among other countries, to talk about PPC, mostly paid search, and really shopping ads. He resides in Billings, Montana, with his wife, 4 children, and apparently I hear he has sheep. Is that true, Kirk?
No, not that I know of.
Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry, it's I don't even want to talk about where that came from. Okay, good. Oh, it's just something I thought about Montana, but I guess that's someplace else. I think that's actually more on Northern Ireland. There's a lot of sheep up there.
Yeah, that's probably true. There are some sheep in Montana, though, but
yeah. It's too cold. I think it could be too cold. It's not the place for sheep.
We have llamas too, so.
yeah. Are there llamas? They kind of have these weird llama types here that were imported from like Peru, and they're breeding them. These like emu llama things, and they're being used. Anyway, that's another topic for not a PPC webinar. Okay, so let's so I think we're about ready to get started. So Samantha, whenever you're ready, you can take over the screen and begin your presentation.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thanks ever so much for having me. As Joel was saying, I'm going to be sharing some tips, tactics, and strategies that you can use to target people across the different stages of the purchase funnel. I've been talking about this for a few years now, and it's a topic that I can keep bringing back because it's an ever evolving topic. Like there's always new stuff that's coming out across the different paid media channels. So it's something that's kind of close to my heart and something I like speaking about. So just to start with, as Joel said, my name's Sam. I'm running a paid media consultancy called Biddable Moments, and I'm working with brands and agencies, UK and US at the moment. Yeah, so that's a bit about me. So let's get started then. Before I tend to do any talk, I like to just kind of give you a brief overview of where the 2 biggest channels are in terms of their own revenue growth. And I think if we look at Google's annual revenue going back right the way to the year 2000, 2002, right the way up to 2017, you can see that they've got a massively steep revenue curve that continues to grow year on year. And this is actually coming from their advertising revenue. So 2017, $109 billion, which is huge. And to continue to see that sustained growth is really, really impressive. And then when we move over to Facebook, they've got a similar trajectory. Obviously, they've got a way to go to catch up to where Google are. But last year alone, they were at 40.6 billion, which is, again, a massive, massive number. And this is coming purely from the advertising channels that they're pushing. Now, why do they see such significant revenue growth? For me, the main reason is that they continue to adapt. They adapt to the market. They adapt to who it is that they're trying to reach. They adapt to the customers and the consumers. They're continuously innovating and trying to find new ways to actually help to grow their businesses and not just sticking to doing the same old thing every day in, day out. And then they're adding lots and lots of new features. If you work in paid media and you take a 6-month break and then come back again, you will be alarmed at the amount of stuff that's actually changed during that period. So I think that's one of the key things that we know are sort of the key driving points, if you like, for the different channels. And as paid media advertisers, like, we need to continue to do the same things. Like, it's our responsibility to basically follow suit. Like, if they're starting to introduce new channels and new features, we should be doing the same and in making sure that we're including those within our campaigns as well. So one of the things that I like to talk about is something called race. And a lot of people are like, what on earth do you mean? And the way that I look at this is, rather than just continuously talking about the purchase funnel and we've got awareness right the way through to purchase, I try and mix it up a little bit sometimes. So we've got reach. It's the first part of any marketing campaign that you're doing. So where you're trying to reach people that are either aware of your brand already or who are not. Two very different audiences, but they all sit within that reach campaign area. Then we move on to act. And this is whereby we've kind of warmed that audience up a little bit. They're aware of who we are. They're aware of what it is that we're selling or promoting. And now we need to encourage them to take that next step and start moving them towards purchasing. And that's when the convert stage happens. And what I see a lot of businesses doing is they get to that convert stage and then they stop. But there's one other real fundamental area that I think paid media particularly can do really well for businesses, and that's the engage stage. That's where we're trying to, you've spent all this money and all this effort that you put into play to try and encourage people to buy from you the first time. Like, you need to continue to market to those people. You can't just leave them there and expect them to continue to be a customer, because they have to be worked. They need to be given constant reminders that you're around so that they keep coming back time and time again. And on top of that, they can then recommend you on to their friends. So they're the 4 areas of the reach, the race campaign area that I tend to, the kind of framework that I work towards. And the way that you do see success is if you target every single section of this framework. Like, there's so many businesses that will just purely focus on the conversion stage, because that's where they're more confident in their approach. They know that if they put something live, if it doesn't work, they can change something. If it does work, they see those immediate results. Whereas if you're starting to do some more stuff around the reach stage or the act stage, it does take longer to sort of see if something's working or not. And people can tend to stop and they panic a bit and think, oh, it's not working. I'm gonna hold fire on that. But it's really, really important to target everybody at the different stages of the framework. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you 4 strategies that you can use for each of the 4 different areas of that framework that we spoke about previously. And starting with reach. So something that you can actually do here is the Facebook SDK utilized with lookalike audiences. So if you're using that framework and that if you've got an SDK in place, you can actually get a lot more targeted with your approach. So this is an example for a British mobile only bank. And what they basically did was they took that Facebook SDK and the ad solutions, and they tried to drive traffic to see the app, but exactly the right target audience that they were looking for. So they did a really, really kind of broad awareness campaign, but then the broadness sort of was narrowed down because they were literally targeting people that they really thought were going to be the ones that would download the app, and the creative could change. So this is a really clever, smart way of actually targeting people at the awareness stage, at the reach stage, without actually having to go too broad in your approach. Another thing that works really well at this stage is Facebook video ads. Like, these are appearing in every Facebook newsfeed now, and I think more and more people are starting to use video, and it's just a really eye-catching way of trying to drive traffic back through to your website, and utilizing all of the different targeting features that you've got within Facebook. You can really hone in on the people that you're looking to reach and try and promote something to them at this stage. Now, whether it's at this stage that you want to try and sell to someone, I'd probably say you don't. The main thing at this stage is you're just trying to educate that user, and video can be a really good way of kind of warming that audience up, and then you can then remarket to those people at a later date. Something that is potentially coming soon is we're seeing native ads appearing in the Google Discover feeds. This was found a couple of months back, but then there's another one that's actually been appeared more recently, and you can start to see these ads appearing in and around relevant content to what that person's actually looking for and what they're reading online. So this isn't something that's fully rolled out yet, but it's been being talked about, and it should be something that could be quite interesting to try and reach people right at the very early stage of their sort of decision-making process. Bing have also launched something absolutely so exciting that lots of different paid media advertisers have been calling out for this for a long time and wondering when they're actually going to start doing something like this. And they actually announced last week, I think it was, or the week before, that they're going to allow businesses to now target YouTube, LinkedIn profiles for Bing ads. So similar to how we do with our LSAs on Google, whereby we're saying, right, okay, we want to hit this particular demographic, this particular age. And if that person is if somebody within that demographic reach is searching, we're going to increase our bids for that particular demographic. Now, what Bing are doing, which is really smart, is allowing us to target people based on their LinkedIn profile. So we can target at the moment by industry, by company, and by job functions. And I think this will continue to expand as they test this and roll it out a bit more. It's only available in the US at the moment, but this is going to really, really be interesting to watch how this evolves, because this is something that Bing are the only ones that are going to have access to. And it's particularly for B2B, I think this is going to be a really interesting way of trying to find new customers that are sitting within a specific company or industry, and then making sure that our bidding strategies are correct and applied to those particular people. So next up, we've got the act stage. So as I said, this is where somebody's actually become aware of who you are as a brand or your product, and you're trying to push them down that phase. You're trying to encourage them to actually funnel through and make a purchase with you or complete your desired goal. So one thing that Google's been rolling out of late is the responsive search ads. Now, I've seen some good results off of these, and I've seen some bad results. So I don't think that this is something where we can sit there and say, yeah, every single brand and every single advertising campaign should have these in them. I think it's definitely worth testing and seeing if it works for your brand, but don't be alarmed if it doesn't, because I've seen it in some instances where it's worked and some where it hasn't. But what responsive search ads do is it's kind of like website multivariate testing, but for ads. So rather than having to continuously write different ad variations and wait and see whether that ad's performing for you, what you can do with these is you can basically upload up to lots and lots of different headlines, 4 versions of a description. And what Google will do is they will mix and match those to make different ad variations, so that you can try and make decisions quicker in terms of the ad performance than what you would do if you were just running ads parallel to one another. If there's certain things that you want to make sure always appear in your ads, you can pin those. So you can say, right, okay, headline number 1 always has to have this particular headline. I'm only happy to test headlines 2 and headlines 3 and description 1 and description 2 within my responsive search ads. So you can have some control over that. But one of the key things to note here is where Google can mix and match the ads, and the different headlines, it's important to make sure that in no matter what order these ads are, the headlines and the descriptions are appearing in, they actually make sense. So I wouldn't have things like free shipping, free delivery, free postage and packaging, because if you had that as all three headlines, your ad's going to look really strange. So make sure that the headlines all make sense with one another, no matter what order that they're going in. Augmented reality ads is something that Michael Kors and Sephora are testing at the moment with Facebook. And I think this is going to really change the way retail businesses use Facebook as an advertising platform. Because like, as you can see in this example here, Michael Kors are basically allowing you to hold your phone up, and you can take a selfie of you with a certain type of glasses on. So you don't even need to go into the shop to try the glasses on, because you can do that from the comfort of your own home. And Sephora are doing a similar one where you can test out different lipstick shades. So I think as this evolves over the coming months and years, I think this is going to be really interesting to see how brands start to sort of utilize augmented reality within their advertising campaigns. Next up on this area, we've got message extensions with email. Now, Google came out with these message extensions a good few years back now. And in all honesty, I haven't ever managed to get any success from them. It's something whereby if somebody's sitting there looking at an ad and you can say click to message and then you send a text message. But the problem that they've had with this is that the business needs to be able to provide a phone number so that the responses can go to that number. Now, that is a massive stumbling block for a lot of businesses. And Google have come out recently to say that they are actually changing that process, and they're streamlining that to allow you to not have to have a phone number. What will happen if somebody now sends a text message is it can auto respond via an email. So all of the text messages go into an email box, and you can set your automatic replies that go from an email into a mobile phone SMS text message. So I think with this particular feature, this is going to be really, really interesting to see how this can actually evolve with the whole like chatbots type things and in there, because I think that there's a lot that can be done with message extensions, especially now we can do some stuff with email. And then the final bit within this particular section is we've got the Bing intent ads on the MSN and Outlook. So Bing launched these last year or earlier this year. And what they basically do is take your search intent. So they look at your search queries and your search history that you've done in previous searches, and they will start to display ads that are relevant to those particular queries within MSN or within Outlook. And so it's taking that search intent and putting it into native display, which is, Bing was saying that this is working really, really well for them. And a lot of businesses are getting some great exposure for their brand off the back of it. So if you're looking to do any kind of awareness or re-engagement campaigns, this can work really well. So if we move on to the convert stage, one thing that I've seen some big successes in is the Google local search map ads. So this is, I don't know how many of you have been doing PPC for a while, but when I first started doing this, we had Google Maps that had absolutely zero ads. It was really easy to get everything ranked organically within the listings. And you sit there and think, wow, Google's probably going to start to monetize this at some point. And lo and behold, last year they came out and said that they were going to be doing one ad appearing at the top of the local search results. We're now seeing, in a lot of cases, we're seeing two. Now, for the advertisers that have been using Google Maps for a while and seeing some really good results organically, this isn't good for them, because this is going to be using up a lot of that search volume that they were getting from here. But what I like about this is it actually gives some of the smaller advertisers an opportunity to rank within the search map ads, because they can start to appear above those that have been there for a long time in the organic map listings. And these are really, really good as well if you're looking to drive footfall into a local store. So if you're an e-com business that's also got a sort of a high street shop, if you like, you can use these to say, well, okay, let's put our promotions into these ads and we can drive people into the store, or we can encourage people to buy online. But they're a really, really interesting way of trying to take that kind of online journey offline and encourage those conversions. Another thing that we're starting to see is the product listing ads appearing in two carousels. So we're seeing the double, it's like a double-decker product listing. So at the top, we can see things that are related to the keyword that's been searched for. So we've got the shop for engagement rings, and we've got all the different engagement rings across the top. And then below that, we've got the shop by store. Both of those carousels are sponsored. And what you can see on here is that there's absolutely nothing that's organic on that screen. So that's above the fold. There's 0 organic results on this particular example. But for a retailer that's doing anything with Google Shopping, this can be a really, really clever way of trying to drive some more traffic through, because like you can see here, Robbins Brothers are taking up 2 slots. They've got their 4 karat gold engagement ring at the top, and then they've also got their shop by store area at the bottom there as well. Something else for Google Shopping is within the knowledge panel. So over on the right hand side of a search, when you're searching for a particular brand that's got a location there, what we can see is the ability to allow us to search this store. So this is fed through with the local inventory feeds that we can upload into Google. And what we can see is if we're searching for something, we can then say, oh, okay, well, that particular product is available in store, and the store nearest to you is located in X. So that you can actually say, well, okay, if I'm selling something like a TV or something that is a product whereby people want to actually go and see the product in real life before they commit to making a purchase, these particular ads are really good for this, because it shows that something's in stock and it encourages that person to come in store, because they know that that's not going to be a wasted journey. They've seen that it's in stock, so it encourages them to come through. And then similar to what we were seeing with the Bing intent audiences, Google have also got something similar with regards to YouTube. So what we can see here is on the left-hand side of the screen, we've got somebody searching for financial advisor. So they've done a lot of searches and they've looked around online at this particular search query that they've done. And then they head over to YouTube. And with custom intent audiences with TrueView for action, what we can see is how Google are tying up that user search intent with their YouTube search behavior as well. So we can see a financial advisor search on the left, and then as they go over to YouTube, we're displaying them relevant content, relevant video ads that are related to recent searches that they've performed on Google. As we move into the engage stage then, one of the things that works really well, GDPR has taken a bit of a hit with these type of things, but if you've got data that is GDPR compliant and you are able to upload that into Facebook, this can be a very, very good way of actually targeting people for renewals. So in this example, if you think Direct Line as a car insurance provider based in the UK, if we take a list of everybody that purchased car insurance with Direct Line in March 2018, when it becomes February 2019, we can upload that data into Facebook and Google and say, right, these are the people that have purchased car insurance during March 2018. So we know when it gets to around February time, the likelihood is that they're going to start shopping around. And what we want to see as advertisers and as brands, we want to try and retain that customer. So by uploading a customer match list and sending out adverts to those particular people, reminding them that their car insurance is due for renewal and maybe offering them a discount for staying with you as a brand. There's different ways that you can do things like that, but customer match segmented by month of purchase for anything that's a renewal or a subscription-based model can work really, really well. Click to WhatsApp Messenger ads are something that seem to be on the horizon as well. And I was wondering how Facebook were going to start tying in WhatsApp into their whole advertising strategy. And I think this could be quite an interesting take on how businesses are going to use this, because we've seen a lot of people using messenger ads now, and how if somebody hits send message from an ad, you can have that conversation point with a potential customer. The click to WhatsApp Messenger ads could be used to try and promote loyalty programs or to try and have that follow-up engagement with customers. I had a really good example of how a brand had actually used this for something that I bought. I bought a t-shirt for a friend of mine, and we got a Facebook Messenger. We saw a Facebook Messenger ad afterwards. It was basically thanking me for the purchase. And then after that, because I'd engaged with it, they then had the whole conversation with me via Facebook Messenger, and we're actually sending me updates on when the product was going to be shipped, and when I could expect to receive it. And I think all little things like that, little touch points like that you can use where you're not just hammering people with email, taking advantage of the different advertising platforms that we've got to really enhance that experience, is where brands are going to win moving forwards. And then this is one of the examples that we were looking at with Facebook Messenger. So communicating post-sale, and I appreciate this is quite a hard screen to read, but this is like, thanks for shopping with us. Let us know, we'll let you know when your shoes arrive. Just message us back if you've got any questions. And it reinforces, like, you can see the image of the product that's been purchased. And then it even gives you like a UPS tracker so that you can actually see when your product's going to be arriving. And I think this is a really clever way of communicating with customers post-sale. So a couple of final words, because I know we've not got a huge amount of time today. One of the things I want you to bear in mind is a customer doesn't just wake up in the morning and think, right, okay, I'm going to go and buy from this particular brand and this is the exact product that I want. They need to be warmed up. They don't just wake up and know that you as a brand exist. They have seen you at some point along that journey. And there was a study, I can't remember where I saw this and where I've got this stat from, but it does take a fair number of times of touch points in order for you to generate a conversion. I was running a training course a couple of weeks ago, and we were looking through the attribution report, and somebody had clicked on 56 different keywords within my PPC campaign. So it cost me 56 times to actually generate that sale. So I think it's really important to, which moved me on to the next point, use an attribution model that allocates success to all clicks, not just the last click. Like in the example where we had the 56 clicks before somebody made a purchase, imagine what your actual cost per acquisition is for that particular, for all of those different keywords. Like you may have had one sale, and if you were basing it on last click, it might look like you're in profit. But when you actually take into consideration all of the different clicks that it's taken to actually convert somebody, that sale suddenly goes from being really profitable for a business to completely unprofitable. So it's really important to use an attribution model that does allocate success to the different channels and the different clicks across PPC. Campaigns at the reach stage, so the awareness stage, are not designed to drive immediate conversions. If you are in a business and you've come up with loads of different ideas of things that you're looking to do for that particular brand, focusing on the conversion stage first and working your way up is where you're going to get the biggest impact and results. If you start launching awareness campaigns before you've done anything else, it's going to take time for those people to actually funnel down that purchase funnel. They're not just going to see an awareness campaign and immediately want to buy. So if you're trying to get the buy-in from investors or CEOs or business owners, just focusing on awareness is not going to help you to do that. And then the last point here is you do need to make sure that you're focusing on the entire framework, as I mentioned at the start. But if you don't do this, you are only tapping into a small proportion of your available marketplace. You need to be patient and you need to wait to get some results. Nothing is going to happen overnight, but you need to start using all of these different strategies in synergy with each other in order to actually see the return from the campaigns that you're running. So just as a reminder before we go, the RACE strategy is reach, act, convert, and engage. And thank you very much for listening.
Okay, well, I mean, I found that very informative, really. I mean, for one thing, you were talking about excellent ways that we could, as stated in the title, reach users across the sales funnel. I mean, people don't just wake up in the morning and necessarily just decide, I'm going to buy this. They first for people first have to become aware of what your product is. They have to consider it. They then have to desire it some more before they take action. And then even after they decide that they actually want to buy the product, they might turn around and start searching for you, searching for who you are, searching for maybe some competitors of yours that might offer something comparable. So it is important to understand that decision-making process. And also, and also as well, it's important to know the tools. And I think something that I found very valuable here was how Sam was able to present to us some new features that are up and coming in the online marketing world, which I think is very exciting. I was very happy to hear that Bing is doing something. I mean, that actually gave some insight into maybe why Microsoft is a bit interested in them, because they did.
Yeah, I think Bing are really interesting. They're a huge advocate of Bing. They're really starting to kind of push and launch some really cool features. I think they're definitely one to watch over the coming years for sure.
Right. And LinkedIn is actually a unique. LinkedIn has a unique ability to reach professionals in a way that you can't from any other platform. So combining Bing search with what LinkedIn has to offer, I mean, is a very powerful way to reach users. Unfortunately, there's not that many people on Bing, but the fact that they have a tool to reach users in a better way does, add some serious value for advertisers to make you want, to make you want to, pay attention to them and not just pass them over Google.
Yeah,
so
I think the other thing that you're seeing with Bing as well, they're actually they're doing a lot more in terms of partnerships. So they're growing in market share via acquisitions of things like powering the different voice search applications and Gumtree and Siri and so forth. There's a lot that they're actually doing to make partnerships there, and I think that's helping their market share across the globe at the moment.
Of course, but if they give me a tool that'll enable me to reach users that converts better because I'm able to reach them in a more precise way than I can with just bidding on a keyword, then I'm as an advertiser going to use it, because though the search volume is lower, it'll work better for me. And I really hope they figure it out and they're able to increase the search market share. I love Google, but we need competition. Things work better with competition. We don't want things to be too easy for them.
Especially in the B2B space, I feel like Google hasn't really thrown solid B2B, a solid bone at B2B advertisers in a while. And this is Bing Ads coming in with a huge play. I mean, we have plans to implement this, let our clients who this will really impact, let them know, like, hey, let's start really thinking of shifting some spend over to Bing now, because this is significant for at least certain of our clients.
That's right. And actually, I just remember something. I know that Yahoo, I mean, when you advertise on Bing, you're also advertising on Yahoo search. They have, I know a lot of like certain types of professionals are more inclined to use Yahoo because of their financial products. So it could be so you could have some very serious professionals on there that you're able to reach more effectively, like in the financial world.
Yeah, definitely.
I was gonna say on kind of the B2B side too with businesses, I think there's kind of a real aspect of a lot of businesses, like the computers that they're given are Windows, the default system thing is Bing, there's default search engine. And so sometimes it's almost, in my opinion, a little bit weighted more towards commercial users, business. So I think this pairing is just awesome. I'm super happy about it, if you can't tell.
I think I
presentation at a university yesterday and logged into their internet, and the first thing that the main search engine that they use is MSN.
Yeah.
So I think even in a university that has got 30,000 people in it, the main search engine that they're all being pushed towards is MSN. So
it's picking up. Yes. And also Internet Explorer is working much better as well. And by default, MSN is what people are more like, with what they push you to use from the beginning. So that helps them too. What I would like to do actually is move on to some questions. Okay, so we actually have one. With so many different channels, features, and tools, how do I know where to start and what to allocate my budget to?
Is that a question for anyone in particular, or should any of us do it?
I mean, this is, this is related to the presentation that you just pitched. So, I mean, that you just gave us. So I think you'd be very well qualified to answer, but.
Okay, so the way that I typically approach any strategy is I start off with a completely blank canvas and make loads and loads of different ideas for the different stages of that funnel. And then I go through and then highlight the ones that I think I've got more chance of success with. And then I start everything at the conversion stage, and I allocate around 80% of my budget that I've got to things that I'm kind of 90% sure are going to work. And then I add in a bit, I take 20% of the budget and I plug that into the act stage, kind of like the middle stage, the consideration stage, the preference stage of a funnel, so that I'm not just saying I'm going to take a huge proportion of the budget and put everything into test phase. It's take 80% and focus it on things that you're really confident are going to work, and then take 20% and allocate that to other features and channels that you may not have tested before, but you're happy and you're happy to take a kind of a punt on those and see how those perform moving forwards. And then as you start adding more revenue and more conversions back into that funnel, you then start taking it up a level again, and then you start using budget to test at the awareness stage. So then you're then taking audiences and trying to funnel them down to convert.
Right. Oh yeah, I get what you're saying completely. I've actually taken a similar approach myself. One thing that I do though, if I find myself wanting to be more aggressive, then instead of it being 80-20, I might be like, okay, I'll take all the money I'll take the same amount of money that I'm spending on stuff that's working well, and then invest it into expanding, so that way I could expand faster. On the other hand, if I'm working on a project where we're wanting to be more conservative, I'd maybe make that 90-10. But I totally get what you're saying as well, and that is some great insight. I have a question from, actually this is through YouTube, Nicholas. He's asking, how are messenger bots going to help advertisers? So that's a very interesting question relating to all these new products and features you're speaking of. Where do messenger bots fit in?
Ariane, you look like you wanted to answer that one.
Well, it's a tricky one, because I don't think we've necessarily seen bots and use of bots by businesses take off in the way that we maybe thought it would a couple of years ago, but I think we are starting to see more traction with it. Sam showed in her example with following up through Facebook Messenger the option for someone to then buy the matching pair of shoes within that chat, and that is where I think you're going to start seeing more of things. But it's certainly going to take time. I think it is certainly a good option, and Bing show many examples of this, of how they embed bots into the results page so that you can ask questions without having to go into the website or potentially open an app on your phone. So making it easy for people to use them is going to be key. I think we've potentially all been a little guilty of racing to build a bot just because we can, without any real thought for exactly how it's going to help the customer and make their lives easier. But if we can think of ways to do that, then people will want to adopt them, because why wouldn't you use something that's going to make your life easier? But I think we've just got to bridge that gap first between what we as marketers want to do and what's actually useful for the user.
And for further resource, for whoever asked that, I would say look into Larry Kim and his company Mobile Monkey. Larry Kim started WordStream. Now he's doing Mobile Monkey, which is literally messenger bots. And he has done some really awesome presentations kind of speaking to that exactly, kind of speaking on the importance of them, how we can do it, and then real practical, like how you can build some. So he spoke at Utah marketing conference a couple months ago on this. So I'm sure there are slide shares out there of that, but they're very helpful.
Yeah. I can also recommend, if you want to get started with a really simple bot yourself, Bing give you the ability through their Microsoft bot framework to build a really simple Q&A bot where you can teach it answers to the most common questions and then train it to deal with different responses over time. That's really simple. I demoed it on stage at an event last year. I built one in about 10 minutes in front of a live audience. It's really straightforward and easy to do. So I'd encourage anybody to go and look at Microsoft Q&A bot maker. And that's a really good, fun thing to try as well if you think it's got some potential to help your business.
Okay. Well, I look forward to seeing how bots, mature in the world. I mean, it could just be something that they, introduced us, and it's something that, people are starting to use that maybe will fade out. But I actually suspect that they'll end up, coming of age and become, become a serious tool that will help us all. I have two questions related to multi-channel attribution. So I'll kind of combine them, I think, so that way, because they're both related. We have someone asking about if you have any suggestions about how to set up multi-channel attribution as far as, I guess, modeling goes. And in addition to that, another question I have is regarding how to track users. And you mentioned 6 to 8 touch points.
Yeah.
So 6 to 8 touch point. It's probably not on the same device and browser and whatnot. So what tools do we have available to us in order to track and get insight into what's really happening?
Oh, the golden question. There's a lot of different tools, and I think whichever one you use, if you test that against another tool, you're going to get different results, and you're never going to find anything that's going to be 100% accurate. I think as a business, the way that I try and speak to clients about this is if they haven't got an attribution model that they're using currently, it's really difficult for them to sit there and say, oh, I think we should use this one. But having something that is used consistently across the board in the organization is absolutely fundamental. If you've got different agencies or different teams running Facebook ads and running Google ads and running Bing ads, like there needs to be a central kind of reporting system that people are using. Otherwise you're going to be double counting, treble counting conversions, because and we're seeing this more and more. And I think Facebook actually have come out yesterday, I think it was, with the Facebook attribution tool, which I haven't had a chance to play with yet, but they're trying to bridge a gap by sort of pulling all of the different channels in together. So it's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. For me personally, at the moment, I'm using a variety of different things. So if I'm running PPC on Google and on Bing and on Facebook, I use the individual platforms to help me to understand what's working and what's not within those individual platforms, but I don't report from those platforms. I use those to help me make the decisions about whether a keyword is working, whether an audience is working. But in order to understand what's actually driving the revenue or the conversions into a business, at the moment I'm using GA, so using Google Analytics with again, depends on the client, but in a lot of cases, maybe a time decay model or a linear decay or a linear model, so that I'm actually seeing, okay, across the board, how are my different channels attributing to that conversion? Rather than just solely relying on saying, oh, well, on Facebook, I've generated 1,000 sales this month. And then on Google Ads, I've generated 900 sales. But then when you're looking in GA, you may have only had 1,500 sales because they're double counting in some instances. So that's the way I typically will approach it. But it's going to be interesting to have a play around with the Facebook tool, because I want to see what that can do.
Well, but the really, really groundbreaking thing about the Facebook tool is that they're not tracking users by their device or browser. They're tracking users by their login. And I mean, most people are logged. I mean, of course, you never track everything 100%, but most people use Facebook, and most people are logged into Facebook on their mobile device and on their computer and on their computer at work and so on. So if I'm understanding the way the Facebook attribution tool works correctly, it'll know who that person is cookie free just because of what they're doing with Facebook. Am I wrong?
No, I think that's right. And I think it's also obviously Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger.
Okay.
If you're logged, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, any of the other two, but I think because they've got access to all of those different platforms.
Yeah. So they're stepping it up. They know who you are in a different way. It's not just about, you can't clear your cookies and stop being tracked.
Nope.
It's a very effective way to know what you're doing, when you jump from device to device, just because they're tracking you by your login. It is, and that's an advantage they have. Sure.
They're probably one of only 3 companies who can offer such a solution. The others being Google, particularly with the Android ecosystem, and then you could argue Apple. People who've gone, full Apple and own Macs and iPhones. In theory, Apple, but for their strong stance on privacy, would be one of the only other companies who stand a chance of doing that. So to see Facebook come out with this product when Google's own attribution tool has stalled, that was meant to come out earlier this year, and then it didn't come out of beta, and now it's kind of just gone away completely for the short term. It's really interesting to see that development.
Yeah, and by the way, and Microsoft too. I mean, they are running operating systems, so they could. I mean, of course, there's a whole privacy thing, but they could have access to more information than just simply what you're doing in the web browser. Yes, people are all Apple. That's even something else. But from what I know of Apple, they're going to be much less inclined to get into that world. It's just an assumption I have, and it's a different topic.
Facebook's charging into attribution so hard because they haven't been sued by the EU as much as Google. Somewhat of a
Not
joke.
yet.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like that's coming pretty soon with this attribution platform that basically tracks you regardless, right? Like, it'll be interesting to watch to see what happens in the future, but it's also a little scary, right? I mean, there's a lot of data that they have, and that's a big part of the conversation right now.
You know what, now they mentioned it, I suspect that after they start getting in trouble, they're going to be forced to give you a box to tick about whether you want to let them track you cross-device or not.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so I have another question. Do you have a favorite attribution model, and what is it and why?
A favorite, actually.
Anybody?
I really like DDA right now if you have enough data. DDA is Google Ads data-driven attribution. Core problem with that is that it's only single channel, so it's just in Google Ads. So just kind of be aware of that. But it is, to me, at least Google trying to kind of get through you actually applying machine learning to attribution to solving that. I'd have to say like position based is kind of otherwise where I land, just because it's somewhat, gets me a little bit of the first click look and the first touch and last touch and some in the middle, but there's no perfect model.
No.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And I think sometimes you have to kind of adjust the model based on the traffic source. For example, if it's a remarketing campaign, obviously, last click attribution shouldn't work if it's remarketing because they came in through something else. But you do need to give some credit to that remarketing campaign, so that way, it does have the ROI it deserves. I would say the same goes with branded search. If someone is searching for you and your brand, unless you're a huge brand, it most likely means that they first clicked through another channel, and then they just had to look you up. So that should be different than, let's say, regular search keyword than the rest of search. And then I would then divide the regular search even further based on the type of keywords. If they're searching for how to or about something, they're higher up in the decision-making funnel, so then it might deserve more first, and so on. So yeah, that's a good.
It would be really helpful if we could have an attribution model at campaign level in Google.
Yes.
Yeah.
Almost give them priorities of how much credit you want them to be given.
Yeah, this one's based, if you're running a display campaign, it would be good to have that as a first click attribution model, whereas if you're running brand, it's last click, and so on so forth from there. I think if they could launch something like that, that would be helpful rather than having it set at the conversion metric.
Yeah. But we could always do it manually. I mean, we do have that's just work.
Yeah, we do that a little bit, kind of like you said, depending on that, especially so like when we're running shopping, we've done that. We've segmented campaigns out, so we have more top of funnel, bottom of funnel, overly simplified, of course. And then what we can do is, we'll use like Google Analytics, check out first touch reports, or you can always use different attribution providers to have one be tracking things through first touch and whatever. So like you said, there are hacks around that, but I love that idea. I've never thought of that, but you're right. We need that on a campaign level.
Yeah, we do. Let's all petition Google.
And more ability just to customize and optimize, because as you were saying, Joel, you'd want the ability if something came through and the email was the first touch to instantly, well, that's it, no other channel matters, that person is clearly already known to your business, none of your other marketing should receive credit for that. But there's currently no easy way to do that, short of doing something manually or setting up an extremely complex set of rules. So it's a shame because something like DDA is only available within Google Ads unless you pay for Google Analytics 360. So again, there's not that parity of options available to advertisers, making it easy for us to make these choices yet. Hopefully that's going to improve.
Right. But I don't think it'll. But I think it's all. There'll never be like one size fits all models.
No.
You know what I mean? It's always
there's no one true model.
Right. And then and even once you have a model, it's going to change based on your marketing, strategies. You do something different, your traffic, your traffic structure, your traffic sources are going to, the way they come in is going to change, and the way they influence each other is going to change. So I think it's always going to have to be dynamic. I mean, I say.
Can I ask a question kind of based on this? It's something that I've been battling with for a couple of years now, and have never been able to get a completely correct answer for it. But when people are importing goals from Google Analytics into Google Ads, the two look at things in a very different way. So like if you're looking at when you're looking in Google Analytics, the conversion is based on the day that it happens, not and it's also based on the channel that it's coming from, last click, like predominantly. So let's say that you have somebody that's been to the website via a PPC ad, and they've clicked on the PPC ad on, say, the 15th of October, and they come back to the site again 2 days' time organically, and then on the 1st of November they come back, and they come back again via organic. Now in Google Analytics, that conversion is going to get awarded to organic on the 1st of November, but in PPC, if you're using AdWords conversion tracking, it understands that that click first came from a PPC ad on the 15th of October, and it awards some of that conversion to it. If you're importing goals, though, that all gets lost, I think, because it won't then import that because the conversion came in on the 1st of November. So how is it then tying that back to the ad and the keyword that was clicked in AdWords? Do you know what
we asked a question about this to Google last year when we were trying to figure out whether we should be pushing clients to use the different models within analytics or the different attribution models within Google Ads. And the point that the Google rep made to us is it's actually good to be using, for attribution purposes, the models within Google Ads because they look at every click and every interaction. However, when you import the goal from analytics, all it's doing is importing the last click attributed data, whatever model it is then used, and that's all it's feeding back. So you're missing out often on the other touch points, the other chances that PPCs had to play a role in that journey. It's only taking that one view and importing it back in, so you potentially lose out on a lot of data. I think it's worth importing both for comparison's sake, but for any optimization and internal management of campaigns, I would always go for the Google Ads data.
Google Ads conversion, Google conversion tracking. Same. That's my take on it as well.
You know, that's really bad for is conversion optimizer, because I mean, like, what's something that's very important is being able to bid properly based on hour of the day and day of the week. I mean, it depends on, of course, like the stage people are in the decision-making funnel. If they're more ready to take action, then the hour they come in doesn't matter as much. But if they're first becoming aware of you, I found huge variations with certain campaigns I've run between mornings and evenings. And if you're not tracking based on time of the click, then you completely throw that away. And what you're telling me is a little bit surprising, because it's telling me that if I'm running conversion optimizer off of analytics goals, then conversion optimizer might be completely losing that, which is one of the great things about it, about how it does that multidimensional bidding and bid adjust for time.
Yeah, you see that, and you'll see that month on month as well. So if you're looking, say somebody's clicked, if you're running different campaigns across different time zones as well, and based on where your Google Ads account is set, if you've got a time zone set to the UK, but you're running campaigns in the US, 2 p.m. in the UK is obviously not 2 p.m. in the US. So looking at how all the clicks are coming in, if you're then importing data from analytics, nothing matches, and you could end up switching campaigns off that you think aren't working at a certain time of the day. But what you're actually seeing is the conversion point, the time of day that that person's converted, not the time of day that they were first introduced to the brand. So it opens up a whole host of different problems.
And that's a feature that I wish Google had, by the way, where you'd be able to bid based on bid ramping, and it adjusts for time zone. Because I've actually had some campaigns before that had such massive variation by hour of the day that I would have to segment based on time zone. You know, just to bid ramp differently. Okay, and by the way, wow, time's flying here. This has been a lot of fun. Really, any other questions from anybody? Actually, I do have one. Where do you start if people have never heard of your business at all? Mix of convert and reach. That just came in, like literally this second.
Never heard of your business before?
Yes. Where do you start?
You need to start at the awareness stage. If you've got something that's completely new, a brand new product that people are not even aware of, you need to make sure that you're investing some money in the awareness stage rather than just trying to go in at convert, because you need to warm people up to that brand slowly.
I saw a great talk at HeroConf a couple of years ago where the speaker talked about even when shopping, people even on generic queries don't generally click on brands that they don't recognize. So even if you are the right answer to that question for a particular user, if they have no association of you at all, they are still highly unlikely to click. So having that awareness generated at that earlier stage, whether it's because you've reached them through YouTube or a display advert, or you've managed to have them, see your brand somewhere else, is so important. So at least it's not the first time they're seeing you on that results page in Google, that they already know who you are and they have that trust that you are who you say you are.
Yeah, if we get a prospect who is like, hey, the similar scenario, we're new, we want you to help get us off the ground, and then they immediately go to a limited budget with some sort of a really dedicated target ROI, we're basically out. Like I basically refer them on, because I think that you've got to have expectations for kind of that awareness building. It takes money. It takes money and time. So, yep.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, I think if you're first starting off and also if you're building awareness, you do have to wait. Things do take time, and the statistics cost money, and they take time to compile.
Yeah.
Right. So this has been a lot of fun, actually, and I could keep doing it, and there are still questions coming through. I would like to ask you guys before we go, just any single takeaways you could give, starting with you, Samantha, and we'll move on down.
Any takeaways for?
Takeaways, yes. But then you could just give the audience just one tip, one thing you should take away out of everything we've discussed today. What is one thing that someone should take home for them? And you all three will, be able to give your little tidbit.
One thing for me is, I think, making sure that even if you're not doing any form of remarketing campaigns at the moment, or you're not using any of your email CRM data, getting that data uploaded into the platforms and getting website audiences built now is absolutely key, because you can't rely, you won't be able to do any of this framework without having people to reach. So having actually things set up so that when you're wanting to go live, you can. So for me, building audiences, uploading databases, and getting that data ready to use is absolutely key.
Okay, I follow that. And also track everything you can from the
Yes.
start. Even if you don't use it, track it. Maybe you'll like it. Maybe you'll need it later. Okay, and also Ariane?
Yeah, so my tip is going to lead on from what you just said, Joel, actually, that as well as tracking that macro conversion of the sale or purchase, whatever it is you're trying to drive, is track all of the other things that people can do on your website. This is particularly important for people in the reach and act stages, because that is going to be how they express their interest in you as a brand. As Sam said, no one's going to come out and buy from you straight away. And if you're struggling to sell in the idea of a YouTube campaign or a Facebook campaign that's just going to drive brand and not sales, these are then cold, hard metrics that you can give to the senior people in your business and say, well, we know that these things, be it a catalog request or a phone call or this much time on site, shows a high level of engagement that often leads to purchase. And so this campaign is going to deliver that. And it gives you something to measure and a way of tracking whether or not those campaigns have value beyond just focusing on the sale.
Okay. That's also very important. It's usually, I mean, it just get set up from the beginning before you even run. I think it's important that just you're able to gather all that information and not just optimize for the outcome, optimize for the journey. The
for
journey
the behaviors on the
outcome.
way.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And also it's important to track those micro conversions for testing as well. I mean,
100%.
Right, because you want to test every step across the funnel too. And now Kirk over in Montana.
Yeah.
With the sheep. Don't even. I'll explain to you later
No,
where that came. Later, I'll tell you where that comes from. You might know where that comes from. By the way, if you haven't figured it out yet, I'll tell you later. It's hilarious. Okay, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I think based on Sam's awesome presentation, I think that you really have to know how to do marketing well, and then how to work that into a paid media strategy. So specifically where those people are you're trying to reach, how you're going to use paid media to reach them, and then having realistic expectations on what you can expect in terms of return, not confusing those. So we'll see that a lot. We'll see people confuse maybe kind of a real tight last click ROI focus on more of the awareness side of things, which is just not going to happen. And if you're confusing that or not having great marketing brand messages at those different stages, as Sam was saying, then you might be able to keep things profitable and just kind of maintain. But I think that the brands who really understand and get it are those who really are willing and able to invest in just in overall marketing, hitting all those stages, not being quite as obsessed about last click profitability, and more being concerned about doing marketing well.
Great tip.
Yes, yes. Wow, and we're actually quite a bit over, and I feel like I could keep going. And we will actually. I'm going to be, this year I will be regularly hosting these webinars. So check the Semrush site, the webinar section. You'll see upcoming webinars. I mean, other ones are just as good, if not better, than mine. So, please just, join. And also, I think all of us are available on social media, Twitter, LinkedIn. You could connect with us. I personally am more than happy to answer questions online. And, I look forward to hearing from everybody and really meeting you guys again, both online and, even in conferences in the future. So
That'd be great.
yes,
Yeah.
it's been a lot of fun.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.